Every thought we have, I. That's all we need. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about our self that we cherish, always thinking I. So it's what's happening all the time, even when asleep. So we set up the parameters. If we're going to look for that I, where can it be? Within our body, our mind, the collection of body and mind, or somewhere other than our body and mind. That's it. If we can't find it in any of those places, if it's unfindable, the self that we normally cherish, thinking I, does not exist. So we set up the parameters in our own meditation. Then we do the search. First one, in our body. If my body is myself or I, then it follows that after death, because my body becomes non-existent, myself also becomes non-existent, and so there are no future lives. So if my body is myself, there are no future lives. Since this is impossible, it is clear that my body is not myself or I. So we contemplate, until we ourselves make a clear decision. Myself, my body is not myself or I. So Geshe-la says, tell yourself this. Tell yourself. This is how to put this instruction into practice. My body is not myself. Then, next one, is my mind myself? If my mind is myself or I, it makes no sense to think or say as we normally do, my mind, because my mind is the possession and myself is the possessor. And possession and possessor cannot be the same. They cannot be one. Therefore, it is certain, it is clear that my mind is not myself. Again, Geshe-la says, tell yourself, investigate and make a clear decision. My mind is not myself. Then next one. Since my body and mind individually are not myself or I, so my body is not myself, my mind is not myself, put those together, not self, how can the collection of our body and mind be ourself? Impossible. Geshe-la says, how can something that is not the self and something that is not the self magically transform into the self? Impossible. So the collection of our body and mind is not ourself. So this one we find a little bit harder because we think they are. It's not the body, not the mind, but somehow the body and the mind together. So if you remember, Geshe-la gave us this beautiful example in London, because in front of him, he's sitting teaching in the Vajra posture, and in front of him, because we'd just done Wish Fulfilling Jewel, and were his Vajra and bell and the table. And he said, for example, Vajra is not table, bell is not table, Vajra and bell cannot be table. Anyway, you think about that one. So, Geshe-la says, since my body and mind are not myself individually, it is impossible that the collection can be myself or I. For example, a goat and a cow individually are not sheep. We have to think. This is profound Dharma. Think with our Guru's blessings. it is impossible for the collection of the two, goat, cow. Sheep